cheerleading. So that being said, we're here with Frank. I've known Frank for quite a few years. I did not have the pleasure of playing for him because I went to the Volk School. But I did have the pleasure of attending North Reading High School for 1 year and attending his gym class. I'm afraid I can't tell you anything about the gym class. Different times, and this character did things a little off the cuff. I don't think they have boxing over there. I know they don't have boxing basketball any longer, right? Do you remember boxing basketball? Debbie does. But he ran a great class, but I want to give us, because this is history, and we're going to be recording some of this, and I'm sorry, written recording, and for now, we'll do this again in a couple of years. I want to get us all acquainted with Frank's history here. I can give you a lot right off the cuff. 49 years as a coach at North Reading High School, started in 1965. 65, I'm sorry. 65, that was your class. You were 69 also. He was also 69. First state championship in 69. But 49 years as a coach. Off the top of my head, you are the All New England all-time winningest coach, correct?
Baseball. Yeah, baseball.
For baseball. And I brought Debbie here to keep me in line.
Be honest.
All-time winningest baseball coach in not just Massachusetts, but all New England history, correct, Frank?
Yes.
700 and how many wins?
I wish it was 737, but we were one shot. State championship, yeah.
I was going to touch on that game towards the end. It's all good. Anyhow, 736 wins, 5 correct state championships. 1969, 1975. What were the others?
2012.
1970, 74, 82, and 2014.
Wow.
2012, I'm sorry.
2012, yeah.
2012.
You retired.
It was 14 that we...
2013 you retired, correct?
2004. Well, from coaching or teaching?
Coaching.
Coaching was 2014.
Okay.
You don't want to know why I didn't. Why don't you have one more year so you can get 50? Well, I wasn't really I didn't think I was even going to get hired for 1965.
On a personal note, I can remember that year asking you, why are you retiring? And they explained to me the new high school was opening up and it was a great transition point. I'm like,
Yeah.
the best of help. Why? Whatever.
How many people here graduated from North Reading High School and had Frank as a coach or a teacher?
I didn't, but my children did have.
You did? When year you graduated?
I graduated, but he's a young man.
Yeah, I almost had 3 graduating classes, as a matter of fact.
Anyone else?
Well, Dana, when I first started, you don't mind if I cut you off?
No, please, take right over.
When I first started teaching at North Reading, Dana was one of the first people that I met. And his son, who I had in gym class, I remember fondly him coming by the baseball field when I was practicing with his police cruiser, and he'd get on the microphone, "Is there a Coach Carey here? We got a warrant out for his arrest." and I'd say, "Oh, gee, this Dana." And people were like, "Oh, no, there. It's him." They point to me and everything. Yeah. Anyways, Dana, we go back to '65, and I noticed just in the crowd here, we got a few former teachers and players and students and so forth. But Stevie Carr, I was surprised to see Stevie. He was the shortstop on The first state championship team in North Reading history was 1969, and Steve was the shortstop on that team, and a heck of a shortstop too, on that particular team. And only to be eclipsed the following year by another, after we graduated, we had another shortstop. I told him that story too. But I have a lot of stories that I could tell you people that,
69, who else was on that team?
a lot of it, well, is Peter Quinlan was, you know, I just got notice from his sister about Peter.
That's a
Um,
sad story.
And did you
Dave-
share if it's,
Who's that?
we know about Peter, but is this anything more,
Yes.
okay.
But, you know, it's, he's living in Houston, Texas right now,
Yeah,
and
Yeah.
changed his address.
There was always a rumor about, or a tale about Peter, because of your acquaintance with Tony Conigliaro, Tony coming up here and helping you with some of the practice sometimes. Is that true?
Yeah, that's true. I took Peter. Peter was a kid that had he had some emotional issues, and I took him to Fenway Park to meet Tony Conigliaro, who was a star at the time, at 20 years old at Fenway. And I said, Tony, this kid here is as good as you were in high school. And Tony looked at him, and I'll never forget it. Tony looked at him, and he said, is that true? You think you're as good as... And Peter pointed to another player over Tony's shoulder, and it was Karl Yastrzemski, who was the left-handed hitter. And Peter didn't speak much. He never said it, really didn't speak much. And he just told Tony, he pointed to Karl Yastrzemski. So that's when Yaz he was at the top of his game then. But Peter was, without any question, probably my friends from Lynn still talk about his accomplishments in baseball. He was a superstar. I tell you that he'd be, well, for some of the people that would know, have heard of Bryce Harper, who was a phenom in high school and now a major league player. Peter Quinlan was North Reading's answer to Bryce Harper. He was a phenom. He had made, I could go on and on.
So did he hit the banks and the?
The bank used to call the principal up and tell us to stop practicing because he would hit balls out of the field, and they would they'd hit the hot top and then bounce and break the windows over there at the bank, and they were kind of irate at.
But the story, the rumor we grew up with was that
Yeah,
one of them was with
Gone by
Tony
now.
gave him a crack bat, he taped it up. And
Yeah, that's another story. That was in 1970. I brought him to meet Koenig, and Koenig gave him his bat. And Peter Quinlan looked at it, and it was a wooden bat. We had wood in those days. And he looked at the bat, and he just said, "No, I didn't want it." I says, "Pete, give me the bat, I'll take the bat." So I took it, and all of a sudden he started to use it in one of the games in the state tournament, and this was the 70 year. One of the games in the state tournament, it cracked. And I brought it to Vic Stickler, who was our shop teacher. I says, "Vic, I gotta have this bat fixed up, doctored somehow. You gotta fix it so they can't see the crack, because it was illegal if it's cracked. It's an illegal bat." So Vic, he was a magician with woodworking. He did whatever he did to it, and the thing was not noticeable that it was cracked. And we played Ipswich High School in the semifinals in 1970 of the state tournament. Peter had gotten up twice, and I probably shouldn't say it, but he at the time, that senior year, he lived with me and my family in Lynn. With his parents' permission, we asked if he could leave, and they said, yeah, no problem. So anyways, long story short, but he had never struck out in high school. He never struck out. There's only this one game he struck out 2 times, and every major league scout in the world was there to watch Peter Quinlan. They all got in their car and they left. And when he left, I remember going up to him and says, "Pete, you see all the cars leaving? They were all leaving because you struck out twice and they saw enough." Well, that at bat, he gets up with the cracked bat. He hit a baseball that when before the game, I'm getting carried away here with my stories, but
No, this is
every time I spoke before the game to an umpire, I'd ask him, what about that out in the outfield? What about this? What about that? What about no one's ever hit a ball that far. We don't have to worry about it. If it goes into it, we'll call it a ground rule double. Otherwise, we'll put it in play. Well, this particular game, I asked about the bleachers in center field. They said no one has ever hit the ball into the bleachers, and Peter didn't. He hit it over the bleachers. It shot up the wall at Beverly High School. They measured it. This is with the cracked bat now. They measured it the next day. They said this is along 465 feet. The ball traveled in the air. 465 feet, and of course, the word got back to the Major League Scouts, and I was involved when he signed his contract. That nothing against North Reading, but he didn't. He just wanted to get out of North Reading, and he signed for peanuts. Really, he just wanted to get the heck out. He was I can.
And who did he sign with?
He signed with the Baltimore Orioles, and the scout that signed him was the head scout, Beauty McGowan, and he said, I've only been in to sign 3 other players, Kyle Yastrzemski, Terry Crowley. Terry Crowley was the designated hitter for the Baltimore Orioles. He came up to the major leagues, and Peter Quinlan. No, and I'm sorry, and Tony Canigliaro and Peter Quinlan. So he was the 4th, and that's, and he was an absolute phenom in North Reading. The town of North Reading in those days was very proud of Peter Quinlan.
We still are.
Yeah, he's still, not many people probably know the legend of Peter. The kids, well, he was something else. But anyways, I have a whole bunch of stories, and I could get into the boxing, basketball, and Dr.
Yeah.
Folene taking I had 40 pair of 16-ounce gloves. We taught boxing in our gym classes to the boys.
Yes.
And although I did have 2 girls that went at it. So
getting back to your
the
history,
boxing,
so that some of these guys.
So one of the kids came home, I won't mention the doctor, the school team doctor, son came home and had a bloody nose and kind of bragged about it with his mother that he had a bloody nose in gym class. And I think it was like, that's not supposed to happen. Well, how did it happen? Well, we were boxing. What? Boxing. Next thing I know, the 40 pair of boxing gloves I had got donated to the Middleton Town Jail. I had big containers like this. The left-handed gloves went here, the right-handed gloves went there. We had the 16-ounce, the headgear. Everything got wiped out. It got shipped over to Middleton Town Jail, which...
Can you add, though, that our principal was a former professional baseball player for a quick minute? Arthur
Yes,
Kenny?
I will. And that's how I got hired. Because I took 3 interviews for teaching jobs, and they looked at my transcript and they went, we can't hire you. You seem like a pretty regular guy, but we can't hire you with these grades. That's when they took grades seriously. And unfortunately, as a student, a college student, I didn't take college too serious. I tell my grandkids I have several records at the University of Rhode Island. I had 8 people one night on my motor scooter. That's a record at the campus. I'm very proud of. And I had a few others that I want to share with you. But getting back to I got long-term memory. What's help me out with?
Arthur Carey.
Oh yeah,
Kenny,
Arthur Kenny.
He
So
employed
he
you.
goes in and he's the only. I took 3 or 4 interviews that summer. Here I am unloading trailer trucks at Conley and Daggett's in Lynn. And by the way, I made $150 a week then. And when I first started teaching at North Reading, I took home $70 my first year. I took a pay cut, half a pay cut. But Mr. Kenny looked at my transcript, and I saw his eyes starting to roll around a little bit like the other principals. And then he said, wait a minute, I see here you played at St. Mary's was Nipper Clancy your coach? I said, yes, he was. He was a fine gentleman. He says, he was my catcher in college. The next thing, the conversation went right to baseball. And he, of course, as Debbie said, he played at the Boston Braves and Holy Cross. He was quite an outstanding college pitcher, and then went to play with the Braves. So our conversation went to baseball, And I tell people I think that's
That's how
I
you
the
got
job.
here, so
Rest
that's,
is history.
That's how I got the job, real.
he's awarded in his hometown or where he moved to
Yeah.
up in New Hampshire and has accolades for his accomplishments.
Yeah,
He's,
he was quite a gentleman, quite a principal, and he was the very first one. The football field is named after him, which it should be named after him, for sure. I don't have a script here, so if anybody wants to, I got a lot of stories I could tell you.
so tell me, how many divisions were there when you first started to win championships? Were there multiple divisions in the state, or was it the whole state?
The first state championship that Stevie contributed to was Class C. They had A, B, and C, and that was it. And I got to be honest, we won it 69 and we won it in 70. And in the interim, we had at the time, the longest winning streak in the state at the time. I think it was like 30, 35 games or something. And we went in those 2 years 45-2. And we the winning streak was one thing, and we actually lost the game. We lost the game right here in the high school field, but that wasn't the important thing. The important thing was that we had developed this reputation as a pretty good baseball team, but we were Class C. And then in 1974, I told this story at
Just go 74.
you weren't on the team that year, Debbie. Could have been though.
Right.
In 1974, we had a golf tournament we just conducted the last summer. We had the 50th anniversary of that team, and I let some of the golfers that were there in on the secret. I said, being the master of psychology, I thought I was then. That's why I flunked it when I was in college. But I should have used some of my psychology moves then. So here's what I did. We're playing Pittsfield for the state championship in '74. So my point is, by beating the Division I, one of the biggest high schools in the state, it finally gave credibility to the Class C and the class, because those teams were every bit as good as the 1974 team. As a matter of fact, the '74 team on the 50th anniversary that we just had reception, they kept pressing me. We're the best team you ever had, the best team. And if you notice, there was a picture in the transcript, and I went like this: 5. We had 5 teams, and you were the 5th of the 5 teams. But I would never tell them that they were. But in any case, it gave credence to the 69 and 70 teams, which in my opinion, with Peter Quinlan, Stevie Carr, and guys like that, Bobby Dane, Peter Hill, they were equally as good. But the psychology move was, if Stevie would remember this, our junior varsity baseball team, or it used to be the varsity, maybe who was in the high school before? I said, Dana, did you ever go to the North Reading High? Or did you go to Reading?
A number of years.
A number of years.
A number of years.
Yeah. So did your son. No. But getting back to the uniforms, what they wore were the old wool uniforms, and they were really ancient looking. And so I had to dress some of the JV players that came with us to the game, to the state finals. I had them. They had the uniforms, which I wouldn't want to put anybody in them anymore. But they were bad. They were wool. And I had them come off the bus with the equipment. And I saw the Pittsfield team. They all looked, and I said, "Oh, I can tell we get them." And then that was the year that we got the brand new sparkling Oakland A uniforms with white baseball spikes, nameplates on the back, cut-off sleeves. No one had cut-off sleeves in those days except the Oakland A's and North Reading High School. And I had the smallest kid on the bus, Jimmy Leach, our co-captain, come off the bus in these bright, fancy white spikes with green shoelaces, and you name it, we were like that. And the Pittsfield team looked, And then I had them, as in the order of height, come off the bus, finishing with 6'4" Greg Stewart, our first baseman. And I knew right then and then when I saw them all just turn around and look like this, I said, oh, I think we're going to beat these guys. and psychologically, I really think that may have helped us a little bit. Although they had 2 kids off that team that signed pro contracts. They were really, really very good. We won 2-1, and we won. Well, we won 2-1, and that was quite a day for us. Quite a bus ride home. In the same, I think we started. I don't know, Stevie, if we started the bus ride with your team or the 70 team. Did we start? I got off at Everett Square, I think, and I called the North Reading Fire Department. I woke Dana up, and he was on the phone, and I said, hey, can you send a fire truck or something down with the sirens going and all that? Yeah, they'll meet us at the town line. That's the first time I found out where the town line was. Which, now, I got to tell you, another quickie. I had a little incident a while ago when I fell and hit my head, and my daughter, I was here at a North Reading game watching the team play, and she tapped me on the head, and she noticed the blood on her hand. She said, I'm taking you to the hospital right away. I said, what are you talking about? I said, I fell. I had to have surgery on my back, and I tripped and fell. And long story short, she takes me to the Wilmington's, the hospital center in Wilmington. I said to the nurse, what's the official name of this hospital? She said, I don't know what it is. When I first started, they used to call it the Death Center. How many of you people go that far back? That's what they called it, the Death Center. And so, anyways, that was the Death Center story. But so I don't know whether I could go on and on.
I have a question for you, Coach. So when Blake was on your team, you had a saying, and I'm not.
I can tell you what it was.
It was about feeling well. I don't remember the whole saying.
It was on the T-shirts.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It goes something like this, and it applies to everything you do in your life, really. If you try, I can't even, try harder.
Feel better.
Fail better. Try, I can't even remember. I got it on a T-shirt.
I'm trying to remember too. I remember.
Try again, fail again. That's what it is. Try again, fail better. And the point is, in baseball is a game of failure. You fail all the time, and that's why if your grandparents or if your parents here, and you have a child that is not turned off on he's turned off on baseball, and they go to another sport, that's fine. But a lot of kids can't accept the failure of striking out. They can't accept the failure of making an error in the field, making a bad throw, maybe causing the team the game. But the idea of practice, you try again, you fail again, you fail better. And that goes with everything we all do as adults in our life. If you stick with that motto, I mean.
There's a little bit of your psychology.
And I failed a lot. I did. But I don't know if I feel better, but that was our motto, the team motto that year.
Yeah.
And I
really
still have.
stuck with the kids.
What year?
Yes, and that was.
My son?
Yeah, Blake.
He was in 2012. He was in the championship team. He graduated in 2014. So.
And that was one of my commitments. Was I had told the team that when they all graduated, because we had a lot of younger kids on that team, when they graduated in 2014, I would be retired, because I used to get. I'm not sure if they were trying to throw me out or what, but a lot of inquiries as to why am I still teaching and coaching at North Reading, and
Who was making those
Not for
inquiries?
anybody who played for you.
well, I had a number of opportunities to go to other schools, and I refused because my loyalty was to North Reading, because honestly, because Mr. Kenny he hired me.
Solid.
And I said, no, the schools in Lynn offered me jobs and stuff, and I said, no, I'm happy where I am. But anyways, I continued teaching and coaching at least 10 years after I could have retired. At least.
Who were the most competitive games that you played? What other towns?
Oh, I gotta show you that. Thank you, Dave, for reminding me. I gotta tell you the funny story about this. Is this the glass boat? No. This picture, I bought this because I figured I'd have a light moment here. This was hanging on the wall at the 99 restaurant. In the 99 restaurant in Linfield, has all the Linfield athletes in the photos. And I happened to be sitting in a booth one day and I looked up and I see this baseball player. And then I look, I said, wait a second. That's me on the ground. That's me. And I didn't tell, so when one day I walked in there recently, and where this picture was on the wall, there was a television there. So I asked the waitress, I says, listen, I'd like to buy that photo that was up there. It's no longer there, but I'd like to buy it. It's my grandson, I lied. My grandson, and I'd like to buy the photo, but like to buy it. So the next thing you know, the manager comes over. He says, sir, excuse me, I'd like to give you, this is compliments of the 99 restaurant. So the story is, now the reason I'm telling you this is that here I am, here's the poignant moment. This, I'm not sure if it was the 2012 team.
I was wondering if this was one of those.
Because it's one of two teams. It was in the non-sectional finals, 2006 or 2012. I think it was 12 with Linfield. We're leading by a run going into the last inning, and there's a player on second base for Linfield, and there's a base hit. The kid comes around and scores. My grandson scores, and I have a habit of being watching the game a lot of times on one knee like this, watching the game out in front. And when I saw the throw come into the plate, and I said the kid's going to be out, but our catcher, it was a difficult play, and the catcher mishandled the ball. I won't say he mishandled it. It was a tough play. He dropped the ball, and the kid was safe. And you could see his reaction, jumping up and down on home plate because he tied the game up, which we went on to win in extra innings. But this is Coach Carey. And my principals come out of the stands and they asked me, they thought I had a heart attack. And I said, I gotta have this picture. There's a story behind the story. So that's a true story. They thought I had a heart attack. And that was the 2012 thing. That was a good group. And whatever. I did say that when they graduated, when they were seniors, then I'd be, and it just so happened it coincided with the opening of the new school. And I was told at one of the town meetings, the biggest concern some people had was what is going to happen to the batting cages underneath the high school. They asked that question, and they tore everything down, and they tore everything down. Anyways, I don't know if Dana, you had a question?
It was, one question was Tringali the coach before you?
Yes. And
I had Tringali. I never had you as a coach. I graduated before that. But I often thought that one of the things with North Reading is we always, when I started the school here, was Richard York was the coach.
Oh, yeah.
We always had great sport coaches, and all of them taught us that you play the game the best you possibly can.
Yeah.
And if you win, it's great.
Yeah.
But if you play the game the best you can, that's all they ever asked us for. And I think that's why we were always successful. Because I can remember years ago, it was before my time, that some people might here remember, that North Reading went to Reading High School. I didn't. My class was actually there. So I get confused on dates because I was a member of 3 graduating classes in North Reading. The first year I had an accident, I got burned, so I couldn't finish out the year. The second year, playing hockey, I had a ruptured disc, and then I got an infection in my back, so I was basically in the hospital for 4 months. So I missed that year. Because of my mother, I had to graduate from high school because back then, if you didn't graduate from high school, you were a total failure. So I finally did graduate in the 3rd year. But before we went into the new high school, the class in Reading High School, I remember, this is a story, I can't prove this, but that class, that football team, there was 9 starting football players on Reading High School, and they were a great team that year. 9 of them from North Reading. And they went, the Reading people went to the coach and wanted to know what was going on. And he said, it's very simple. They're the best players we have. When you have better players, they will play. But like I say, I think a lot of his success was because of the way he coached. He was a great coach, and I never heard a bad word from any of his players in school about Frank.
Thank you.
So we should find that record about that Reading team to then own the North Reading part of it.
That's right.
The
That's
football
right.
team that was the Reading winners. We should try to find that data for the history of
Yeah.
North
Well,
Reading to own that.
I do know Herbie Batchelor,
Yeah. Nick
kid,
Martino.
Billy
Nick
Tilley.
and Manny Martino.
Who?
Nick Martino and Manny Martino.
No, they were North Reading. They went
Yeah.
to school with me.
Bob's
But
brother
this team
Joe.
was in Reading, these were guys from North Reading. that
Bob's
were-
brother Joe was on that team. Joe Long.
Yes, right, well, I was gonna say Joe. Joe Long, Billy
Joe.
Tilley,
Yeah,
Herbie Batchelor,
right.
and Bob Mason. I think it was Bob Mason. It was 4 of the guys I know run that team, but
You know, you could go back generations, getting off the subject, go back to Myron Eisenhower, Carl Proctor, Charlie Hamilton, all North Reading guys, Pokey Roach, all at Reading High.
Yeah.
Football, yeah.
Yeah,
But we're on
I can
baseball.
remember going back in 1960, and when I was a senior in high school, we came to North Reading to scrimmage. Trigger Tringali was the coach.
Yeah.
We scrimmaged North Reading in baseball. And the funny, I was telling someone this story earlier. The funny thing about scrimmaging, in those days, we traveled by car.
Yep.
So the car that I was in, we had 4 or 5 starting players at least 4 or 5 in the car. We couldn't find North Reading, and no one knew where it was. We'd ask people, "Where's North Reading?" And they'd say, coming from Lynn, right? "Where's North Reading?" "I don't know. It's over there somewhere." And they'd go like that. And I was telling, maybe it was Billy, I was telling earlier. I remember coming in by way of 114 to Route 62, and coming to the game. Got there at the 7th inning. In those days we played 9. The 9th inning, the last inning, and get a chance to pinch run in the game, only because we had 4 or 5 starters in the car. We couldn't find North Reading. No one knew where it was. Some people didn't even hear of it. And and this was in 1960.
That
So
would be Nick Martino and Manny
yeah,
Martino,
Nick,
the brothers.
yeah,
Chuck and Carucci, yeah.
I played with Nick and fast pitch softball. He was
Yeah.
a heck of an athlete.
He was, yeah.
Even though he didn't look it, but
No, I know it, yeah.
I always was of the opinion that he was, big,
He was a big.
heavy guy.
Yeah,
But I'll tell you one thing, he could hit. He was quite an athlete.
yeah.
And he's a good, and I
He
know-
was good basketball
and
player.
his son Tony, is the golf pro now up at
Oh, is that right?
Drake. I don't know the name of it. I'm not a golfer, so I don't know the name of it.
Well, you gotta remember too, we tried to hide from you guys, cause Lynn was a city. This used to be a town, to me, it's a city now, but,
Yeah.
that was big time stuff.
I told Billy, one of the first, maybe I said it to already to the group, when Stevie may have been I'm sure was on the team. I remember practicing at the high school field, and we had a timeout. There were people riding horses across the outfield to go to the track. It used to be a cinder track. And they'd be like, just, galloping their horse and everything. And I told Stevie the story. We're playing in the state championship in 1970, the state finals. And I had a kid in the team. His name was Billy Green. Gumpo, his nickname was. He was the goalie on the hockey team. Gumpo. And Billy was a shortstop that replaced, well, didn't replace Stevie, but he was, the following year, was the shortstop on our team. And he aspired to be a jockey at Suffolk Downs. He loved horses. He was a little guy, and he wanted to be a jockey. So he says, Coach, can I ride the horse? Let me ride the horse. And me and my coaching strategy, psychology, I'm figuring, oh, this would be good. State finals tomorrow to loosen the kids up. Yeah, go ahead, Gump, go ahead. Jump on the horse. So he gets on the horse, and he gets down on the horse, and the horse is just prancing, and the gate in those days was open to the track, and the track in those days was cinder. Do you remember the cinder track?
Yeah.
So the horse just gallops along, and then all of a sudden, it gets up to the far turn down by the scoreboard, and the horse picks up the gallop, and Billy's, the horse, instead of taking the turn on the track, he ran right for the fence to let this route Park Street. He tries to hurdle, the horse tries to hurdle over the fence. He doesn't make it. He gets caught on the fence. I'm not worried about the horse. I'm worried about my starting shortstop for the next day. And he falls off the horse falls back on him, and I'm running down the track, I'm trying to, whatever horse language, I'm trying to stay off the horse to get him away. And the team is roaring, they thought it was, we won the state title the next day. Great strategy, again, another great strategic move. But that was, like people say today, you'd be fired for that. Yeah, that's probably true. But anyways,
Frank, I had a question about the pipeline of like younger youth sports in North Reading, and were you connected to that anyway? Because oftentimes you don't get just amazing athletes that just show up on your door in 9th grade and like.
Yes, you do.
Well, maybe if there's something in the water here, but were you connected to like the little leagues?
I'm going to be honest. I had a baseball camp. We were the first town. We're the first town in Massachusetts that had a day camp. They had a couple of competitors. A guy named Ted Williams had a camp down in Lakeville. Mike Andrews and Jerry Moses had successful camps. But so I worked at the camps, and I said, you know what, I think I can maybe do this. And we started, I wanted to get, for a summer job, I wanted to get 20 kids. And I think in those days I might have charged like $60, $70 a kid. And as a worker during the summer, the last summer was the first summer I never worked during the summer. And I worked every summer that I taught, and to supplement my salary. But the baseball camp turned out to be really quite a good ordeal for me. And to get back to your question, did it help with the kids? I don't really know. I mean, I didn't certainly push them as diligently as I did with the players that I had, that I knew the parents would stay away from me for a while, as long as the kid was playing,
I think that camp.
What's that?
I think that camp, Blake went to it for a number of years before he ever played for you. And I think that had a huge impact on who couldn't wait to get on your team.
Yeah, I don't know if that...
Did we have Little League starting at what years, what the question might be?
Third, fourth grade.
What year was it implemented in this community?
Well, my camp started in 1982.
But I'm talking the way back.
Way back, no. There was the likes of Eddie Putis Sr., which is, oh man, I'm losing. The other pony league coach in town in those days, it was Eddie Putis Sr., whose son Eddie Putis Jr. was the second baseman with Stevie on that state championship team. Harley Greenleaf.
Eddie Peck was the other.
Harley Greenleaf.
Greenleaf, yep.
Yeah, Greenleaf. And they had good pony league teams in those days. And we naturally inherited the kids that played for the Pony League teams that had some ability. But I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna be honest now, and I'm gonna get out of my soapbox. In all my years of coaching, I don't believe that I ever had a tryout. People would say, how the hell do you get away with not having a tryout? I'd say it was always, never mind, it would be a parent, and I'd say, your son had a tryout with me already from September until March. And they'd look at me and they'd say, what do you mean? I says, I saw him in the hallways. If he's a jerk, see you later.
They're also in your gym
And
class.
parents will tell you that the kids on the teams that I had were all good school citizens. And if I had a kid that was not a good school citizen, and if I had a teacher that complained about a student, or a student athlete, or whatever you want to call him, that was it. He didn't play. And I remember in 2 instances I suspended kids, and we won despite it. But they were the start. One was a starting pitcher for that championship game, well, anyways, the school came first, and I hate to say that, but it did come first.
Well, you knew the kids from the gym class too. I mean, it's not like
Yeah, no,
baseball
no.
was the only time you went.
But by the way, when I first started, they hired me as a science teacher. So that tells you how bizarre
But you had a
Mr.
certification.
Kenny was when
You
he
had a
hired me.
certification for that, though.
No, I didn't, really. And as a matter of fact, when they said, well, you can do this, I says, I don't have any, I had a minor in science.
Oh, okay.
Well, actually, if you want to know the truth, I had a minor in dramatic arts. I took scenery design, stagecraft management, box office management. I took all the courses that you take to get out of college. and one of the box office management, my roommate was the professor that taught that class. I got a name. All I had to do was sell tickets for the school play or whatever. But I get go off in tangents here, but what were you saying, Debbie?
Well,
2600?
but we had a lot of fields all over North Reading, so kids played in the fields on their own without supervision
Yeah, well,
before
they
there was a little league
Yeah, right,
organization. And so my neighborhood, there were aficionados who were baseball card collectors and statisticians. And whether they played or not, baseball gave them this hall-like culture that they were immersed in. And they had so much knowledge of technical things and baseball things, and yeah, they played in the woods, and we played in the woods, and they learned the game as just we teaching each other.
The thing with baseball is, I'm sorry.
Now, I was going to follow up what she was saying about all of us playing all day. I posted something a little while ago because something was brought up about apple trees. I grew up in the Bigham Road area, and Dana's farm was right behind us. His father was nice enough that there was a field that wasn't being, used anymore, almost like a meadow. We made our own ball field down there. We were led by Jackie Canavan, was like the oldest in the neighborhood, but all the Canavans, that particular neighborhood, there was a lot of players that wound up playing for Frank. Bobby LeGros. We had about 30 kids in that one little neighborhood, all within 4 or 5 years apart. And back to what she said was, we went down there, no parent supervision, didn't cry, Jackie let us, but he was like 2 years older than me and a lot of the other guys, but we played ball, 4 hours in a row, stop, take a break, go to his apple tree, steal apples, and then go back out there and play for the rest of the afternoon. When you got home in those days, it was get in your play clothes, get out of here, go play ball.
Yeah, the things have changed, and I got to be honest. I'm not only me, but most high school coaches are not fans of this AAU stuff. And I had opportunities as a coach and a person to coach in the AAU program, and I look people in the eye and I'd say, I'll make my money, and I'm not embarrassed about making money teaching kids how to play the game of baseball at my camps. But I'm not gonna make money in an AAU program that these parents are shelling out $2,000 and $3,000 a kid, and they don't get the coaching that, and by the way, I've contested this with some of my former high school teammates, that the coaching today is superior to the coaching that we went through. I mean, being involved in it all these years, the coach, and I had a very good high school baseball coach, but compared to today's standards and the metrics that they used, and I'm not into that stuff, but we did have some of our own gadgets. But you know, the indoor batting facility, that was with 9 or 10 hitting stations at it. It wasn't just a batting cage, it was stations that broke down every phase of hitting, extension, follow through, back toe pivot, gadgets. I had, you name it, we had it. And some of them were, well, anyways, it's,
Did your competitors in the KPN League have any of that?
no. But
I didn't even know it was there.
Oh my God, it's.
A lot of people did.
What, the dungeon?
Well, I mean, I knew the dungeon, but I didn't realize the extensiveness of it
Oh, yeah.
and the, how it was arranged for exact positions and, I mean,
yeah,
that,
for certain
Ahead of
parts of
its
the
time.
baseball swing.
yeah.
But way ahead.
Gloria Mastro's son, Peter Mastro. Gloria was a longtime member here. Wonderful woman. And Peter, when he was a senior in high school, him and a couple of other kids, they were crazy about wiffle ball. And so one day we happened to find another place to play other than the gym. And we went downstairs into the basement of the school, and it was all dirt, and it was just, and I came up with the idea I was gonna make an infield down there originally, but we started to rake it and everything, and it was too difficult. It was not good composition soil, but we made a pitching mound, and we had in the pitching mound the likes of Bob Stanley, who moved into town, former Red Sox pitcher. He used to work out down there. I made a point to go knock on his door and introduce myself to him, and I said, "Well, the baseball coach, you're welcome to come down and use our facility." He says, "Facility? What are you talking about?" I said, we got a facility, an underground facility. We call it the hitting laboratory. And there's a batting cage, a pitcher's mound. And Stanley worked out there. Johnny Tudor, who pitched in the World Series game. Johnny Tudor was he's from Peabody.
So
Half the Red Sox team at one point or another had all come down. It was the only hitting facility in all of Massachusetts other than Harvard University, and if they had classes or students in there, or Tufts University. So they all came to North Reading High School. And being the gym teacher, the attraction that I offered them all was that they could play floor hockey in my gym classes against the senior boys. And the girls, I would say, girls, you got a choice. You can play. I don't think you should play. Or you can go in the weight room. They all took off. They went in the weight room, and that was the end of it. So for the whole block, these players, guys like Gene DiSasina, who was the manager at one time in the California Angels, when he played in the major leagues as a shortstop, a lot of these guys came back to say, we were the best conditioned guys on our spring training teams because they played floor hockey for 3 months. They played and they'd play 3 classes a day, then they'd go downstairs and hit. Like this. But here's Mike Pagliulo of the New York Yankees. He led the team in home runs this year. And one of our high school players, and by the way, I never rooted for the gym classes. I always rooted for because I was the goalie for the what do you call it, the pro.
The old folk.
The old folks, yeah. So, anyways, kids taking a shot. It's going to be like the tie-in of the winning shot. Mike Pagliulo, who's making all kinds of money, dives across the front of the goal and blocks it with his body. And I'm saying, oh my God, these guys are like ultra competitive. They don't want to lose. They never lost in the 3 or 4 years that they came. They never lost a game to the high school kids ever. And the high school kids loved playing against some of these Major League Baseball players in their gym classes. They loved it. Of course, the other people up the other end of the building didn't know about it, but
Any photos? Do you have photos of any of this? You have to look through.
no, I didn't.
We're carrying
None of them asked me for a
cameras in
photo.
our pockets.
Frank, you know, when you built that down in the basement, you ruined a great place for us guys to go down smoking.
Well, we did. I'll tell you another funny story. There were people on the school committee that were concerned about the facility downstairs, the hitting laboratory. So they go, we're gonna send a company in, they put these gadgets in the batting cage area that they determine the purity of the air.
Yeah.
Well, the bottom line was they found out the air in the batting cage facility was better than the classrooms upstairs because of the mold in the walls and all that. That's before they reconstructed. And that was the end of that. No one on the school committee questioned the batting facility, the hitting laboratory. But we did have a couple of rules down there. There was until girls
Good,
softball.
I'm glad you had
The
rules.
girls soft. No, I didn't want. I mean, who knows? I don't know if they brought their girlfriends down there or not. But the girls softball team was up. They use it. They want to throw me out one day, but that didn't go too far. Anyways, I enjoyed. I don't know. I got more stories. After 49 years, I guess I could tell you a lot.
So I'm curious what you're thinking about on this Hall of Fame idea.
I'm sorry.
The Hall of Fame idea? Like what's the plan? What do you?
Well,
What
first of all, I'm on 4 Hall of Fame committees.
Okay.
One being the National High School Baseball Coaches Committee. And I was talking with Debbie about this, that a lot of people will come up to us, I'm on the North Reading one as well as St. Mary's, the high school I went to. Ironically, I happen to be in all of them, but that was a coincidence. But so, you know, they say, well, how come so-and-so isn't in the Hall of Fame? And the standard answer that I told Debbie was always, someone has to nominate that person first. I mean, in say North Reading, for example, the throwbacks to the old days when Dana was at school, or wherever, would have been Chucky Carucci and myself. And originally Barry Kipnis was on the committee. Then when he moved to Arizona, so we're the throwback. We can talk about a Nick Martino and a Manny Martino and a Chucky Carucci and guys like that.
Billy Carter.
Billy Carter.
Yeah.
And Ralph Bennett, going back, way back. I mean,
My mother used to go to Reading High.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bob McLean and Billy McLean.
Well, Billy Carter
Yeah,
was one of the first.
right.
But he was, I mean, again, there's all these names, but if they're not nominated and then you don't get a profile on them of some sort, it's very difficult to, and that's in even as high as the national high school baseball thing.
So North Reading has
Yes, but
North
it
Reading
hasn't
has
been
it. They've had it.
consistent. It
Okay.
hasn't been consistent. My kids were brought up in Bedford and their Hall of Fame is very consistent.
Right.
This one has been erratic. And so
Where is it on display?
it exists within a parallel universe outside the
Okay.
school.
All right.
No, it doesn't.
Well,
No,
I mean,
you're
it's
wrong.
in the underneath.
They
it's
put out,
it
no,
says it's under
there's
the Hall
football
of Fame.
games, Debbie, they have ballots right there some
Do
of the
they?
football games, yes. If you go to a football game, there'll be a ballot that'll say, we want nominations. We're always looking for nominations. That doesn't mean that people are gonna,
35 years, I never even knew.
well, that's,
That's
you gotta read the
unfortunate,
sports
and maybe
page.
as much me as anything else.
Right, but it has been, it had volunteer effort, going and doing the due diligence, seeking out, someone sought me out
Right.
and asked me, are you in the Hall of Fame? I go, huh? What? Yeah? And there's categories. Different communities have like the body of work.
Right, right,
Or
right.
just what you did in those 4 years.
Right, right, right.
And so there's all kinds of opportunity. Everyone here, write down the names and give your email if you want to be an advocate for an individual or a group that has been lost to history, like the Reading kids who won and the North Reading kids that won in Reading are still a worthwhile, like under another category of, in a parallel universe, all these people were players. So some towns have very robust halls of fame.
And Saul Sports?
Stevie,
Just baseball.
your team is in the Hall of Fame, correct?
Correct.
1969 baseball
Right,
team.
there's-
They take 8 athletes, community service like a Larry Dysart or someone like that. Then they have a coach
Millie Canavan,
who
Millie Canavan as a volunteer,
community service.
right.
Gloria Mastro was one of them. So it's not just athletes, there's several categories. And, the person has to be nominated first. Right now, I think we got, and they're able to exist without further ado for at least 5 or 6 years. I'm not sure I think it's 5 years. And then after 5 years, if they don't get
Voted in.
accepted, then they have to be it has to be resubmitted,
The
But-
boosters in different towns used to help facilitate, okay?
Linfield High School is just starting their Hall of Fame this year.
Right, like
This year.
the boosters, the athletic boosters in Bedford facilitate the Hall of Fame. And so here, the boosters went through a crisis, to my recollection. So who's facilitating the Hall of Fame? In a committee, and the committee
Yes.
is labors of love and volunteers.
Yeah, and since we're sitting in the middle of a volunteer organization, as it is, as we know, we've got some volunteers who volunteer their time very generously for the town. And town committees, everything in small towns runs on volunteers. And so for a sports hall of fame, whether it be
The Boosters Club started, and I can tell you when it started, from 2 people. Millie Canavan and Gloria Mastro. And the Boosters Club operated out of Millie's Gloria's automobile. And every Saturday morning baseball game, they would come down to the field. They would have their little car set up because they'd sell coffee and stuff. And that money went to supposedly, well, I'm not saying supposedly, it went to athletics, but it didn't. Really, you sell coffee for 22 cents, but it wasn't much. But that's how it started. And Gloria used to come down every Saturday morning and give me and this is, well, I probably shouldn't say this, but she'd say, Mr. Carey, here's a coffee just like you like it, like your woman, black and hot. I said, Gloria.
Can we meet that, please?
Yeah. She
was some fun.
Gloria was but that's how it started. The Boosters Club started with those 2 people, and then it gradually, got more involved, and
then stuff happened.
well, no, the time when I was athletic director, I hate to say this, but I was the one that catered the buffet. My sub shop in Lynn.
Okay, all right.
I was athletic director for 6 or 7 years, but and it's ironic that when Mr. Kenny retired, that's when I retired from AD. I didn't want to.
Anyways, we've got one more question way out back.
I guess from what I understand, you used to have a lot of staff on all the players, every season for all the
I do.
And so who's carried that on since you retired? Like, did you or Jim?
I don't know. I have it, matter of fact, I have it home, and I have the statistics for every single year. Because I had a team manager that, especially once they started into this stuff, with the computers, they could type it up and everything. But I go back to when Stevie played. I had a gentleman named Richard the Turtle Conrad. And I had, but they did their stats, and that was how they were involved with baseball. And, but yeah, I do have stats. So when someone tells, they go, you know, they get a few cocktails in there, and they, oh, I batted 444. And I say, no, you didn't. And that's right here, you batted 244.
Can't lie, can't lie.
Every single year, statistics. No, that's no, so they better not lie about it. So, I mean, you know, I didn't finish my story about the tryouts, but, you know, talking about the trying out, the kids have a tryout, being involved in the gym class, we have to administer physical fitness tests to kids, and this is the example that I would use. If I had a boy, a player on that chin, say the chin-up bar, and he needed 4 pull-ups to pass, and on the 3rd to the 4th, I saw his arms doing this, and he'd get up, I'd say, okay, what's his name? And then I'd see the pretty good athlete, the real good kid, boom, 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 bounds up forward and drops off the bar. That's it, that's all he wants. I go, gone, he's cut. That's not what I want. That's not what I'm looking for. I want this kid that's like this with the chin-up bar that wants to achieve. And that's how I determine the guys that are on my team. And, you know, I'm kind of proud of that. That's the criteria that I use. And like I say, how can you pick a team if you never had a tryout? They tried out. If I see them acting up in school or whatever, you know, it's unless you're a shortstop.
I carry that one step further. You know, with the beginning of the tryouts, it's because you tried out, you didn't have to try out. You made the team. It doesn't matter if you're a sophomore, junior, or senior, you better keep that effort all the way through. Now, finish with this. I was a senior, starting shortstop, and I wasn't feeling good one day, so I went home early, fell asleep. And I see the clock. I said, oh, geez, I lived on Park Street. I ran all the way down to high school. And I was 5 minutes late. Who's standing at the door was assistant coach, Billy Devlin. And he says, and he sort of stuck me in because they were just starting the laps around the gym inside. So Billy sort of pushed me, just run, get running, I'm running, I'm running. Next thing I hear, Carl, you think you're better than everybody else? You get here on time. Okay, just like everybody else. So it carried right through the entire 4 years of high school, except for Dan, he had 7 years.
I had good guys. And the fact that a testament is with the 50th anniversary of the 1974 state championship team, of the 14 varsity players, 12 showed up, 2 are deceased. Joey Gleason and Steve Harder. And 12 showed up, 1 from Florida, 1 from Pennsylvania, 1 from Connecticut, and there was a 4th from out of state. And the rest were, you know, lived in Massachusetts or in New England. So they all showed up and they had a blast. And we invited Steve Harvey's son to attend. You know. But they were telling old stories, and I listened, and as many stories I had about them, and I told them every one of them. I got a story about every single one of you guys. They all had a story about me. So.
I didn't know if that was a signal. I think the point, the gentleman in the back was worrying about more interest in that sports thing. There are a couple guys on the committee that I'm friends with, Scotty Ellis, and so I just mentioned to him last week that This is a way for the Diamond Club and we can all work together. This town property right here, that there's room to put, and it would be such a plus.
You mean for the museum or for the?
Yeah, make up a museum for it and let the, this stuff that gets lost, but my understanding when the high school went down there, young Herbie bachelors scored a lot of the stuff that was out in the Sea Wing hallway. Everyone remembers the Sea Wing hallway. We have pictures up there of some of the athletes from.
When the new school came in.
Yeah. Things disappeared. We got a new president here that is so into getting pictures and digitalizing them, and at least having a source where we can all, as town folks can go to and look at things and reminisce about, the glory days.
Yeah, and profiling those athletes is so important, right? Just getting the names together, just getting the profiles together. As you said, that's like half the battle.
Yeah, I have besides that, I have a catalog of names, players and the addresses. Of course, many of them move out of town. So if I run across a sister or a brother or whatever, and I'll say, hey, where's so-and-so? Where's he living now? And they'll give it to me and I can't remember it, so I'll write it down.
Do you have records of each of the team years too?
Yes.
In your sort of?
Yeah, the 49 years that I coached.
Yeah, we'd love to have copies of those. But I think unfortunately, Frank, this has been amazing. We could talk all night. We gotta wrap it up. But we're so grateful for your time. Would
you like me to give you a copy of?
Yeah, we'd love all that.
All the players that I had for the 49 years.
Billy's are going to be our historical society sports historian. He's our.
We should all go out to dinner.
Absolutely.
And we'd love to get a couple of the other guys together. Do this again, but it's like kiddies or something. And get you guys to be able to exchange what you have, what pictures. This guy's amazing, but he put together for the last.
Well, we want to say thank you for coming. There's your gift from all of us. More stories in North Reading.
Where's Nancy Miller?
Yeah, Nancy Miller's book.
She did a story.
You're in there. You're in there.
Yeah.
She did a story a long time ago when I first started my camp, and it was Agatha Morano.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
You're in there. Yeah.
But everyone should feel free to visit with Frank. Thanks, Eric, for coming and do.
That's why I first learned about you playing the accordion.
I have to run, but that's.
Thanks for coming tonight. It was really.